episode of the Winston-Gilchrist Experience. I'm sharing with a fellow producer, Veronica, Kitt. Our experience this week was with Minister Farrakhan, and it was quite rewarding after having known him all these years and really sat down and listened to him over the weekend. Veronica, thank you for getting me in there, because if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't have even gotten there on time. But you and I shared this reporter's experience of covering a person like Farrakhan. Tell the public what it's like to really get to know him and report him. And, I mean, the rest of the media was absent, really not really showing what we really see through our camera eye.
Well, one thing you said, the fact of me getting you in there, the reality is that you had to be there.
Right.
Because he made out a call to the black press, and as you know, if you're not mainstream, for the most part, you're left out.
Right.
You're not even considered. A lot of times we don't have access to our leaders, entertainers, people who move up this higher echelon. So I thought that was very important. So since I know what you do and who you reach out to in the black community, it was important that you was there. And I think it was just really phenomenal to listen to him, to hear the message that he was sending. And a lot of times you would, I mean, there's so many stereotypes, there's so many misconceptions out there about what Minister Farrakhan says. But to hear him live and talk about these issues, I mean, it clears up a lot of misconceptions about the recent incident with Atala Shabazz on, I think it was the 60 Minutes program, and he spoke about that. He spoke about his life and what happened. Of his battling with prostate cancer. The cancer is no longer in his body. So it was just a lot of things that you had to hear for yourself from him to clear up any misconceptions. And I think this is why he appealed to the black press, so that we can tell the story the way it is, uncensored.
Right.
And that's what we do, and that's what you do.
Yeah. Well, see, a lot of this, you know, being a producer here at Manhattan Neighborhood Network, a lot of stuff that you go through in your personal approach to things that really put you in the forefront, or your, I mean, as we know, the media expresses their opinion. So
in sound bites.
But really being on the set and seeing it for yourself, you can't help but present it as it happens.
As it is, exactly.
You shouldn't edit any of this stuff. Just present to the people what you heard.
And that's what I do, and let the audience decide for themselves. But a lot of times when we are influenced by the media, because it's, I mean, it's really a powerful tool.
Yes,
but when you're strongly influenced by the media, a lot of times you don't hear the truth. Because everything is clouded. So you don't hear the truth, you don't see the truth, because you already have these preconceived notions about a particular person. But I give it to them, I let them have it exactly as it is, and you judge for yourself. It's just like reading a book.
I was one of those people, because you and I have had different conversations about Minister Farrakhan, and
you were one of those people that had negative.
Well, I had the Malcolm reservation. Because I was alive when Malcolm, you know, I'm a little older, so I remember what the temperament was back in Malcolm's day in '65, and I was influenced. Yeah, well, y'all know by now. Y'all know. I'll be 60 soon. But you know, I was around and alive and out of the Marine Corps, so I was well developed as far as my influences. And I was influenced by the media and by the typical American exposure, being black in America. So I wasn't listening to anybody, I was just doing my own thing. Well, these guys might have, but in hindsight, you look back to that, and to me, it was just a fight amongst them. And when they came out of the battle, you know, I didn't much care, but through history, I learned what they were all about. In other words, I wasn't in the court at the time. I was mainstream and doing my thing, like a lot of black people.
Right.
But you look
at
history,
being influenced by the media and what they say,
by Hollywood, by all that nonsense. You know, Africa was like Tarzan movies to me. I mean, I was still brainwashed and in the system here. But here it is 30, 40 years later, and then you look back and you know how stupid you really were.
Right.
How much you didn't know about yourself and
Or
your
didn't
people.
care, maybe.
Really?
But when did you wake up? I'm just curious to know. When
it
did
takes
you
a
wake up?
long time.
Because you're doing like really great things, bringing the different people here, presenting the information.
It's,
and so
it
when
takes a
did-
long time.
Yeah.
I think it took to me to get to 50 before I woke up.
Wow.
I mean, I was just doing my thing, and but I started to learn about, you know, history. Well, actually, I turned around in '68, actually, when Martin and Bobby Kennedy were killed. I gave up on the system,
Right.
and I went mainstream for quite a few years. And then the '80s came, and well, that's another story. But back to
We
the-
fight back now. This is how
but
you fight
see,
back.
when I was exposed when I came here to Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
Okay.
This is when I started to realize how, well, I always knew the media affected us. I went to school in '89, so I became aware of how television influences us.
Right.
So I started to really take a good look at myself, how I had been influenced, and you know, once you've been brainwashed, you come out of the brainwash, and you look at all the stupid things you've done in life, then you get to really educate yourself.
Right. And you feel like you got to tell it all. You just
Yeah.
like you, because I've seen Winston on top of a lamppost, you know.
Oh, you gotta do
Covering
it.
the news, because I knew and he knew as well. If he wasn't on top of that lamppost,
Nobody else would got it.
Right, and they
Nobody
wouldn't have
got it.
known what was said.
Well, I don't think I really learned until I got to this business here. To really see, because I was always afraid, like everybody else, to get in front of the camera. So for years I spent behind the camera, criticizing myself the way I look. Now everybody I put on camera, they say, "Oh man, I look horrible. Oh, I hate that way I look."
I don't even know how I look. I'm beyond it. I don't.
But see, so that's why this is therapy for me. This is weekly therapy.
Right.
So that's why I call it the Winston Gilchrist Experience.
Right.
Because all I do is sit here and talk, and the way I normally talk, and so it's been rewarding because I've learned a lot about myself
Right,
and the
right.
people around you.
Right.
Then you realize what a powerful tool this media is and what you can do with it. And then it became a calling from God to really express what I see in church and what I see in people.
Right.
And when you get in front of people like Reverend Sharpton, which we have a show on Saturday at 6:30, a When Christ production, and then Camille Yarborough.
Yes.
And you get these people that have gone through the same experience you, but they can really educate. Professor Smalls we've had on. So the joy comes in being here. You know.
Right.
Mother MNN. I mean, to be part of the media and really tell the truth. Like
Right.
your shows, you're fascinating.
Right, right.
You know, the different reps. I mean, you have to see, a VK report comes on at
Sundays on Channel 34 at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, Sundays, Channel 34. We should have, since we're live, we don't have post-production where we can put the titles up. So, but the whole thing is that we're real here. That's why I love going live, because you can't cut. If you blow it, you blow it. I mean, I drive the crew crazy because we come live and real.
And he's behind the scenes man too. I mean, he's checking sound, and I'm like, where is
You gotta
Winston?
do
He's
it.
back there
You gotta do
checking
it.
his own sound with the mic. But that's real TV, and that's
That's it.
important because the delivery is important, and the information that comes across these airwaves is important.
Yeah.
Important. And you know, I respect what you do. You know, I respect what you, the
Oh, it's a
people that you
love.
bring.
It's a love.
Yeah.
Well, you do the same.
But you had to be there. You had to be there. You had to be there at Farrakhan's thing. I thought that,
That was
like
beautiful.
It
That
was.
beautiful. Thank you, Veronica.
Yeah.
That was. I mean, I saw a light, and I needed to see that. I really need to see and feel it, to be
Right.
there in the
It changed
room.
your perspective?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. I love his efforts to bring us together.
Yeah.
And we need it so desperately.
Yes.
I tell you what really opened my eyes was that Diallo. You know, because, you know, I cover Sharpton every week. And when I went up to Albany, and we were arguing, oh, they're going to get off. And I felt stupid. Because I really believe that
The system?
they're going to no, I believe they will be convicted of something.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I felt like a real idiot. I mean, I
Right.
said, what? I mean, you really had faith in the system.
right,
And
right.
people looked at me and said, what? You're
Uh-huh.
stupid. So,
Right.
but I really, truly believe that they were going to be
But there's a
convicted of
lot of
something.
people like yourself that believe in the system until certain things happen to us.
Did they have to be
it's
behind
like a
the camera
wake-up
like
call.
we are in order to see
Right.
the truth?
Right, but how often do things not go in our favor? How often does it happen? There are so many people who have been disenfranchised. There are so many people who have felt the negative aspect of this system. And so they're total disbelievers. These are the grassroots folks, revolutionaries. We're down, ready to fight because the system does not work. And there's a lot of people out there that believe that. But then there are people like you that says, it's going to work out. They're going to get something. They're going to get charged with something.
But then you realize, you know, see, I'm old enough to remember the way it used to be. And it's so hard for me.
Was it good then?
It was a struggle. But I was angrier then.
Yeah.
And I didn't take any stuff.
Right.
So, but today I've mellowed and I bring that strong faith in God. And I say, well, God, when are you going to change it? He says, well, have faith. So,
well, you're the instrument, and you're making changes by bringing the information to the forefront.
And the media. And I think people of color and people that are, you really have to come to Manhattan Neighborhood Network and get experience to this media exposure that really brings the truth to you. And we try to do the best job that we can with what little funds we have, because nobody gets paid.
Right. But I think it's excellent because of the fact, I mean, a lot of people, they shun or they look down on public access. But the reality is, because we have no control over the mainstream media, this is our media. This is what we control. So then you utilize it to the best of your ability by presenting information the way it is, uncensored, because they don't censor you here. They don't stop you. This is freedom of speech, true essence of democracy, the way it's supposed to be. And this is and this is it. And this is one of the beauties of public access, Manhattan Neighborhood Network. I mean, we can go with it, and it's great. They don't stop you. I mean, they have rules and regulations, you know, certain time frames, 13 weeks or whatever, but I mean, that's really about it. So it's ideal.
Well, without further ado, let's bring up this roll-in. A question asked Minister Farrakhan. This was Friday, just before his going to the UN. This is at the State Office Building on 125th Street and 7th and 8th. I think we'll be right back at you. It's about 10 minutes long, so you're going to see the whole thing, all right? So you judge for yourself. Only at Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
My name is Ron Howell with Newsday. Minister Farrakhan, can you say something about the personal transformation of the past year or so in light of your illness in particular? And given the comments that you just made, and I wasn't even going to bring up Jews at all, but specifically with reference to Jews, given the strength of the comments you made just a few minutes ago, would you say something about how that transformation is reflected, say, either in your feelings about Jews or say something more about meetings you've had with Jews, whatever? Sure. Secondly, because this is two-part, if you could connect it in some way with what Mayor Giuliani has gone through, maybe you'll give me a chance to bring that up again. But would you say something about that transformation, and specifically with respect to Jews?
You know, transformation, that has been misused by the media to make it appear, oh my God, Farrakhan had a bout with death and came out so changed that he's no longer able to speak to the hurt of his people. A near-death experience, which I definitely went through, it did something to me, and it did something for me. I was 3 minutes away from death. On a table in the emergency room in a hospital. I had lost between 5 and 6 units of blood. And I was in excruciating pain. And all the time that I was in this excruciating pain, I was talking to Allah.
Yeah, sure. Wow.
And I was saying to the God that I thanked him for allowing me to live in this marvelous creation. That I thanked him for my pain and my suffering. And I thanked him for the life that he gave me and the service that He's caused me to render. And I said, if it is your will that I leave, I thank you for allowing me to have been. Now, I was saying this, but it was like almost in a semi-conscious state. After they flew me to Washington and the doctors there operated on me, and I had lost maybe over 30 pounds and I was very, very, very weak. Something happened and my lawyer came to my bedside at the farm in Michigan where I was recuperating. And my daughter, who is my nurse, who was right there at my bedside when I was going through this, began to say what I was saying when I was in that condition. And when I heard what she said, the tears rolled out of my eyes. And I couldn't speak for a moment. And I told my lawyer, Lou Myers, whom many of you may know, I said, you know, it's one thing to believe that you believe. It's another thing entirely to know that you believe.
Amen.
When one of my companions, Brother Jabril Muhammad, heard what I had said on my deathbed, and a lawyer was present when my daughter was recalling what I said, Brother Jabril asked the question, I must get to the lawyer and ask him what is the weight of a deathbed confession. Deathbed confessions have great weight. Allah says in the Quran, I will try you with something of fear and hunger and loss of property, diminution of fruit and loss of life, but give good news to those who are patient and steadfast under trial. You don't know who you really are. Each of us believe ourselves to be what we want to be in our minds. But when circumstances test you, try you, and you live up to the principle that you say you believed in, then it's no longer belief. You know. You understand me? I'm saying to you today, I know now. I'm not a believer. I know my faith in God is absolutely the root out of which I do everything that I do. I have no personal motive for self-aggrandizement. That don't mean nothing to me. I want to see the liberation of our people. And because I know now, and I'm not just believing, that was like a transforming thing.
Yes, sir.
Then as I saw how many people prayed for me. Christians prayed. They had vigils in their churches for me. How could I, as a Muslim now, come out when Christians pray for me and be so-called anti-Christian? I hate the division in religion. Jews prayed for me. Hebrews prayed for me. Asians prayed for me. Native Americans prayed for me. The Muslim world prayed for me. White folk prayed for me. How in the world can I come through that now and not be conscious that I must speak now, not just for the hurt of my people, but the whole of humanity is suffering. And I must speak to that suffering, Jews included. So what I said was, and this is real, I would love to see a rapprochement between myself and the Jewish community. I want that. But I will not compromise my principles to get that. That's what I'm saying. I would love a dialogue with rabbis in the Jewish community and Jewish political leaders. I want that because it would be good for them and good for us if such a dialogue took place. Look at how many years it was forbidden for Jews or anybody to dialogue with the Palestinian and their leadership. And we lost a UN ambassador. Huh? Because he dared to talk to the Palestinians. Huh? Now, there's not only dialogue, but there's a peace process. Doesn't this make sense that human beings who disagree should sit down and talk about their disagreement? That's intelligent. But you know, when you're used to black folk bowing down, when you're used to wielding what you think is power, and our people start shaking and quaking, and you find a black man that ain't gonna shake and don't quake, then you got to destroy him because you can't control him. I will never be controlled by nobody but God.
Amen.
He is my control.
Amen.
And anybody else that wants to control me, you have to fight God.
Amen, brother.
I reject that. I reject that thought in a white man's mind that I gotta come to you on my knees in order for us to have a dialogue. Who the hell do you think you are? I don't have to do that. I'm a man and you're a man. Let's sit down and talk like men. I talked to one of the most powerful Jewish leaders in this city. I'm not gonna call his name. But then he was telling me, you know, how much he owned and how much power he had. I said, that's very good. I said, but when death comes to you, all your power, you can't delay it one fraction of a second. So how much power do you really have? I quoted from the Holy Quran to him. I said, if a flea or something smaller took a morsel of bread from off your plate, you don't have the power to call the flea back to drop that morsel of bread back on your plate. So the Quran says, weak is the invoker and weak is the invoked. I can't bow down to this, and neither should any one of you bow down to somebody that thinks they have power. You only give them power by making obeisance to that which is unworthy of your bowing down. Stop it. Stop it. Because whatever you want in life, God is able to suffice it. But if Satan comes and offers it to you on a platter, he wants something in return. And what he wants in return is for you to compromise the very thing that makes you who and what you are. Never give that up. It is better to die than to give up that which makes you a child of God. Do you follow me? I'm only going to take one or two more questions. I got a long day ahead of me.
As you can see, Mr. Farrakhan is merely telling you to take your truths and your self-esteem and hold them high in high regard, because that's the only way to survive. Keep your principles and your strong belief in God strong, and you will survive, especially being a person of color in America. I mean, we all know how difficult it is to be. And being a female in black in America is even a tougher task, isn't it?
Probably is so, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
But,
I mean, United States, of course, is...
but you're the mainstay of the family. Mr. Farrakhan is talking about the family and how we're destroyed by the system, how it's a scheme, it's a master plan.
And they've done studies in which he said that 70% of families in the United States are headed by women.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And so I think the family structure has changed today. We no longer have the nuclear family, which is men, male, female, and child. Our families today are single parent, mainly by women. But it is a fact that we, as a family, should pull together And especially for this new year, for this millennium, we need to pull together. And if we are going to be strong, then we need to practice certain things with regards to unity, with regards to respecting one another. And he goes beyond just the family within the home. He talks about the Christian family, the Muslim family, all families, everyone. He's talking about unifying everyone. And under the universality of God, because God, there's only one God. And so he's talking about this, and I think it's just like so phenomenal. Once again, he is bringing people together. He called for the Million Man March. Now he's calling for the Million Family March. Who could do that? Who can move masses of people?
Powerful.
You know, under that type of calling. You know,
it's really a warming feeling to see this happen, because you know, it's been so many years that we've marched here, marched there, and to no avail. But at this time, what's happening to us, it reminds me of the 60s, or the late 50s, when people of color start to really turn around, like when, well, I guess you can't compare that to any time, can you? Really thinking about it. But, I mean, well, I guess it's for me personally that I feel this way. I haven't felt this charged up in a long time. You know, that the possibility of change is real, and that we can actually have an input to changing things through the media again.
yes.
And
And
but you know
politics.
what's really frustrating is like this ACS thing, where you can't help people that you want to help. And you put stories on, it doesn't seem to affect anything, and there's so many things out here to do.
Right.
And it's just so, you know, Dean
I think we
Lawrence-
need to get together collectively, though, because a lot of us is fighting certain organizations and institutions alone. We need to get together collectively. I wish I had the book with me, but Minister Farrakhan, they have a book, The National Agenda, which talks about certain things like that, health, international affairs, everything that's happening within our families that keeps us down, keeps us disenfranchised. And so I think it's like his national agenda is such an excellent idea. Politically, can you imagine, I mean, the Million Family March is taking place October 16th, 2 weeks before the national election.
Right.
When they had the Million Man March, I think they registered over 1 million black male voters. Can you imagine what influence this is going to have with the Million Family March? If we do go out and vote, or we choose someone to be president, you know, we'll have a voice. We're changing the face of politics as we know it today.
Well, his approach to the youth and the gangs, and I think, I don't know if you saw this, I don't know if this is the piece that we just showed, but he talks about how the rappers are selling us out, because they're really the I mean, this rap phenomena is great throughout the world, and that it's our culture, and if they just tune it down to be respectful to our women, and instead of calling them bees and the whores and all this other stuff.
I missed that part about the rappers selling us out. I didn't hear that part. But as far as rap is concerned, I think a lot of rap is indicative of one's socialization, of what they see in their environment. Now, of course, we should not call women, you know, bitches or whatever. We shouldn't do that. Of course we shouldn't do that. But when they rap, of course they're rapping about what they see. Their world is very dismal, you know. So I can understand where rappers come from. And another thing rappers have managed to do was to create a new art form and create an economical thrust for them. This is how a lot of rappers are making money and surviving today.
I saw that show that you did recently with a rapper.
Oh, with $500,000.
$500,000.
Yeah,
I saw that show.
I really.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Because even Reverend Sharp is saying that these words shouldn't be adjusted to complimenting our.
They must take accountability for what they say, just like what we show on the air. We must be responsible for what we air.
God, yes. Yeah, I pray every Tuesday that I come out right.
Right.
And just be real. And so
Right.
that's the best way to approach it. But as you know, the media is so concocted and controlled by corporations and the powers to be that this is why the television is so filled with misinformation. It really is.
Well, with the sound bites, it's going to be you're going to be
It's
misinformed. But it's not the voice of or what the larger majority out there wants to hear. This is why there's a place for public access for a Manhattan
Yeah.
Neighborhood Network.
But how do people learn and follow this? Well, you and I know because we're part
We
of
don't
it.
have a choice. That's the only thing on TV.
I mean, you and I know what it's like to produce television, but the people out there that don't know and just go along with this, and it's amazing how, because I was in the FAR for years myself, so I understand what it's like to be brainwashed by television. But you need to wake up to Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and everything on Manhattan Neighborhood Network isn't
All that great either, because you know a lot of people don't want to watch it. Exactly. But I don't think
So-
that people are brainwashed. I think that they never had the choice. You know, because it's like
that's
it's
a better
always
word.
been there. So they never
Yeah.
had the choice to realize that there was an alternative. But once you do know that there's an alternative, then you're responsible for it. So then you are, that responsibility puts you in a position to promote change, to go after more positive programming. You know, and I think that but we need support. I mean, it's just like the businesses in our community and stuff like that. How much support do we have when people say, "Oh, buy black," you know, and nobody patronizes the store. So, you know, we are our own worst enemies at times.
Well, Farrakhan is saying that we need to go back to the family unit. And these marches, I mean, I think all of us need to get together. I think, especially the youth. I think the youth has to really pay attention to what's going on.
But we are responsible for them as well. We need to teach and give back
You have grown
and
kids.
carry them through. You know,
How was it as a single parent?
it's,
Because you have the
You know
case
something?
scenario of all these problems
it's
we're talking
really
about.
it's really great because I'm growing with my children.
Okay.
But there's a point in time in which I knew that there had to be a male influence in their lives because I have two sons.
Right.
So it was clear. Because I cannot teach a young man how to be a man. I can't do that because I'm a woman.
Right.
I can give him examples, but only a man can teach a young boy how to be a man. If they don't have that example in their homes, then what are we creating? Will this young boy grow up to be a man if he has no example? So I mean, the minister speaks about the extended family. So I respect when older brothers step in and take
Right.
younger brothers under their wing.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to be the biological father in order to be the father.
Right.
You know, so I think that's important. But I mean, it's just great. I mean, as long as you have your faculties in place, you know, your children will grow. Some people say my kids are spoiled, but you know, that's from the mom's perspective.
Well, you're supposed
How
to
could
be.
you be both? You know, it's just really, really hard. But they're good. They're good. They're really good. It is, and it's okay.
It's
You know, it's
tough.
your responsibility. You have no choice but to do what you have to do, you know, as a parent. So, hanging in there.
So you put Farrakhan as a symbol of, we were making comments of Farrakhan's son. If you notice what we just saw here, the piece we
powerful.
just ran, the gentleman in back of Farrakhan is Farrakhan's son. I mean, as a lot of you know. And if you were watching his reaction, we were talking about,
Powerful.
you know, how powerful it is to have a father of that stature and feel and emulate and be there behind them.
But I like
talking
your
about watching
shot.
your back.
Yeah, I like the two-shot that you did. 'Cause
Yeah.
Winston is very technical, and so he gets into that. The two-shot was powerful.
That's dynamite.
Yes, I
Now,
really
could you
love the way
feel
you
the
shot
energy
that.
coming across? I know if
Yeah.
you people that know something about videotaping, and you know,
Yeah.
I started out as a photographer, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you really
this
capitalized that
is-
entire
this is-
that in itself. It was powerful. I really respect the way you shot it. But what about the minister being being up at Sharpton's headquarters because you were there?
yeah.
That's something that the media was not there,
That
but you
was-
were there.
That was a treat. That was a treat. I knew he was coming. I told everybody, nobody at NAN knew he was coming. Which, you know, I videotape NAN every week, so I was prepared for Minister showing up. And when he showed up at about 11 o'clock, at the end of the radio broadcast, I quickly changed tapes, and then I was ready. So it was, matter of fact, we have that clip here. I don't know if we have time to do it, but maybe we can run 10 minutes of Reverend Minister Farrakhan at National Action Network. Nat, you have the tape? Just run a few minutes and see where we at on the tape. I forgot where we spotted it. You know, we're doing this stuff live, so there's like an emergency switch on the tape. And then we'll come back and talk to Veronica some more
But
about
that was
this
really
amazing
excellent.
experience of being reporters.
He spoke in that. And this is a historic picture. Well, y'all need to freeze the moment. If we can just get some of us together for a minute, we can go a long way. Remember the minister talking to me in Man March about Willie Lynch. And that's what we have to work on. A lot of y'all know because y'all followers of Willie. Y'all practice Willie Lynchism. But I'm proud in the House of Justice to present to you this morning my friend, my brother, our leader, our advocate, a man who's been on the wall for over 4 decades.
Yes.
I first met Minister Farrakhan. I was a young teenage preacher, youth director of Operation Breadbasket. He was the minister at number 7.
That's right.
The police had went up with an incident with police.
Yep.
And I remember that Sunday we did Positively Black. None of the preachers would do the show. They said, let Reverend Sharpton go. And I thought they were promoting me. I didn't know they were scared. I didn't realize nobody wanted to do this show. I told my mother, these old preachers, all right, they give me my shot. But I went and did the show. And I'll never forget the minister come in. I'll never forget this. They gave us water on the set. And he looked and inspected the water. He said, well, looked at Eugene Kelly. He said, I guess it's all right. He said, no, you a kid, you do everything. So I inspected my water. I didn't know what I was looking for. For the next 5 years, I was looking at water. But he's been that kind of leader and friend. And we've had everyone here from the First Lady to Winnie Mandela. And we've never had a prouder moment than this moment. To bring to you the leader of the Nation of Islam, Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Thank you very much. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, we thank Him so much for the guidance that He sent to all human beings through the mouth of His prophets. We thank Him for Moses and the Torah. We thank Him for Jesus and the Gospel. We thank Him for Muhammad and the Quran. Peace be upon these worthy servants of Allah. I am a student of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I could never thank Allah enough for His intervention in our affairs, raising up among us the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as a leader, teacher, and guide. I greet all of you, my dear brothers and sisters, with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. To my dear brother and friend and companion in struggle, the Reverend Al Sharpton, to all of the brothers and sisters who are a part of this movement and this great house of justice, I had to come this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
What I said to him several months ago in private. I saw him on C-SPAN one morning, and I listened to the beautiful way he answered the questions of his questioners. And I said to myself, how blessed we are to have a brother like this, who speaks so well to the hurt and the pain of those who suffer, those who are black, but other than black. He has stood and is standing on the principle of truth and justice. I wanted right then to write him a letter to tell him how much I admire him. You know, if you really love God, you can see him wherever he appears.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
In whatever form he appears in. And wherever you see God manifesting through a human being, you have to bow and recognize his presence.
That's right. That's right.
We see him in the flowers, we see him in nature, but the most beautiful way to behold him is when you can see him and feel him in a fellow human being. I saw my brother handling himself so marvelously well. And when I saw how he stood with Amadou Diallo, how he stood with Brother Louima, how he stands for those who are hurt wherever they are in the country, not for a headline, but for the principle of justice.
He's a good young brother.
As you can see, that's a powerful combination. You know, I'm there every Saturday, and Reverend Sharpton is a gift from God. I mean, to we as a people. I really, truly believe that. And to see the two of them together, I mean, there's really some hope that we can, you know, really accomplish something with our vote. We're talking about voting now. I mean, no matter what you believe, who you believe in, just learn to utilize your vote. Let's do it the right way. We don't have to grab a gun. He goes on to say further about utilizing your vote rather than the gun, and using the power of speech and the media, and what powers we have as, you know, exposing people to what we see. I mean, that was quite an experience this weekend. I mean, it was dynamite. Now imagine seeing Farrakhan Friday, Saturday, and I missed the Sunday. I mean, the Saturday night. It was a Saturday night.
Yeah, Saturday night.
At Manhattan Center.
But you know what?
Oh, the UN. I missed that one,
at the
too.
United Nations as well.
And you were there for those two.
I was there, yeah. But you know something? Looking at that piece, I immediately thought of the meeting of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
Ooh, wow.
I was just putting it into a historical context, and I think the powers that be would hate for various leaders like a Sharpton and a Louis Farrakhan to come together.
We've never discussed
because can you
that
imagine what would happen
Right.
if we, as a people, come together and unite? Because one thing Farrakhan was talking about was the African nations, 43 nations got together, and they're going to start the United States of Africa.
Right.
Can you imagine if globally we begin to unite? Because we're so divided.
It's powerful.
But if we begin to unite, Sharpton is doing a march on August 26th.
Redeem the dream.
Redeem the dream.
Right.
And so Minister Louis Farrakhan supports that.
Right.
And vice versa, he sharply supports the Million Family March.
Which is October
16.
16. Okay.
So this is the new millennium. What is happening to us in our communities, our people, our psyches? What is happening? What will happen?
And God is bringing us together as a community, as a spiritual people of spirituality are coming together as a people. That's what I think really said. I think that's Farrakhan's, Reverend Minister Farrakhan's message. That no matter what religion you are, whether you're whatever, there's one God. I mean, there's no claiming that we're all God's children. Until we get to that point, we're going to flounder around and just be our own individuals forever. And that's what I was lost in. That's what I mentioned early in life. I didn't have any direction. I didn't feel kinship to anyone. And I had Mr. Diallo on a couple of weeks ago, and we ran it on July 4th. And just being close to someone that's going through that trauma and feeling his strength and his belief, his belief in God that's carried him through all this stuff. And it's just amazing how much strength people and faith in people have in God.
You're right.
And
you're right.
Minister Farrakhan says that, you know, this is a revelation to him, being 3 minutes from death. And I think it takes us all that being close to death before we wake up to reality.
Exactly.
The reality of God and his existence. So.
You know, it's interesting because you said him being, the fact that he was close to death, and he says, what does the weight of a deathbed confession has? And he talked about how he was saying certain things, and then at some point later his daughter was telling him exactly what he said. And he related that to Shaka Sankofa.
Oh, right.
The killing of Gary Graham.
That was powerful.
And Gary Graham laid across that gurney, and he said, I did not kill your son. Now, usually when you have people who commit crimes, at some point they find God. I think Volpe found God, and he's doing things, the one that did the incident with Luima, with the plunger.
The officer.
Yeah, so they said he found God. At some point
he has found God.
That's what they said. They had found God. I forgot who the woman, his minister. Her name is. I can't think of her name right now. But at some point you have remorse. You become apologetic. You admit and you say I'm sorry. But he never said sorry. He never did. Farrakhan believes that he did not commit this crime. And if you have the confession of one person, you just have the statement of one person that says I saw it, but yet you withhold all other information from other witnesses, then is that fair and just? You know, so it's just really unfortunate. But what does the weight of a deathbed confession have? And I think that should be held in account. But if he, and I'm just tying that into the fact that he had this confession and he said, if it's your will, so will it be, and I will do what is necessary, which now today is the Million Family March, bringing people here. So he has a mission.
Oh, yeah.
This is his mission. This is his destiny.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, it fears me sometimes. I become, you know, I wonder, you know, sometimes I ask, what will his legacy be? Will it be the Million Family March? Is this his last move? Is this the last thing we're going to have from our dear brother, Minister Farrakhan? Yeah, I hate to think that way, but that's what I've been, you know, bothering me.
Oh, this should open up a whole atmosphere for a bright future. If we have some effect on the election and they come to us asking us what we need, if it ever happens, I don't know, it just seems that they're determined to put us under their foot and continue as they have for the last 500 years. I mean, this is something I think we really have to kind of turn around and learn how to support our own selves and produce our own products and learn to cater to we as a people. And this whole United States of Africa is an eye-opener. I mean, all the jewels and gems and
that they have
natural resources
they can maintain control of.
To actually share that with their brothers across the ocean and develop some sort of import-export of the natural resources and then benefiting the people who live in the diaspora throughout the world. And this is what I think we need to look forward to. and stop for that infighting. But, you know, this is what our enemies are counting on, our
Right.
infighting. How we always are
There's
at
always
each other's
division. They
throats.
throw a bone
The
right in
Willie
there.
Lynch theory.
Yeah.
We might explain the Willie Lynch theory. The Willie Lynch theory came out in the late 1800s. Professor Small, we need you to call up and explain this one. I'm calling you, brother. But it's a theory of turning the field Negro against the house Negro, the light-skinned Negro against the dark-skinned Negro, and all these other different changes that we go through as a people. But Minister Farrakhan is putting all that aside, and the difference he had with Malcolm, which should divide us again.
Right.
And we seem to be coming together collectively.
But you know something? If you really think about it and you ask the question, if we can find that one common bond to bring us together. There was at one time, I would say, that for African black people, that one common bond would be the color of our skin to bring us together, if not anything. But if we as a people, as a human race, can find that one common bond to bring us together collectively as a whole, it would be God.
Amen. Of course.
Because it transcends across race, across sexuality, everything. God, the universality of God.
You know what it is? See, God is love. And a lot of people cannot have that love feeling towards your fellow man. I mean, it's so difficult people to really extend themselves lovingly. It's so difficult. Because once somebody puts up a fence and they start protecting their God consciousness, they sort of lose their God consciousness. Because God is love. You have to give out.
Yeah,
You have
the
to give
true essence of
constantly.
God. Because, you know, I know they got some nations, they go to war. Oh, God, please let me kill them.
Yeah, I mean, what is that?
Please let me win this war.
Well, there are a lot of false prophets,
you know,
too.
cutting, scalping
that's-
people, and you know, so I mean, there's a lot of evil.
I think you can find a lot of devils right in the church, too.
Exactly, under the name of God. You
Right,
know?
there are a lot of false prophets. I mean, so it's game like everything else. But if you look in the mirror and be true to yourself and love yourself and your fellow man, then you can find the God consciousness in every human being. And with that, I think we got 5 minutes. I don't look at your clock. It says 2
No, don't
o'clock.
look at this clock.
See
This
that?
clock is totally off. I'm on some other time. It keeps me running.
Franklin, it's always a pleasure having
It
you
is,
here.
it is, and I truly respect the fact that you are out there in the forefront. I mean, we need more positive TV. We need more people like myself and you out there covering the news, giving information the way it is to enable the people as a whole to decide for themselves what to believe. Because a lot of times you get those negative sound bites, you don't get the full information, you don't get the full story. And if you're not there, then you'll never know. You rely on the mainstream media to tell you, and so you're being misguided. And a lot of times, like when I interview rappers or, you know, they are very close to their community. They're very conscious people. You know, you have all of this media hype, but that's not the reality. You know, Wu-Tang Clan, they give out turkeys, they build schools, computer schools, and it's just a beautiful thing. And that's
Build
what I look,
computer schools?
computer schools out in Staten Island.
Is
And
that
that's
an
what I look for.
Is that an exception to the rule, though?
Is it? No, but that's what it's always been. We just don't know it. It's always been. If you have any foundation in your community, if you love yourself, then you love your people, you love your children. And so you look towards making sure that they're strong, because them being strong keeps you strong. You know, and so we have to do that. Take our money and put it in endowment funds to build schools so that the people behind us, the children behind us, can grow, can be there, can sustain us.
Right.
You know, and that's why the media, how you cover it, how I cover it, is so important. Because we give the truth. You have to give the truth. You're responsible for the truth.
Amen. So with a true faith in God and the truth, we continue. I'd just like to make an appeal out to anyone out there that would like to get involved with the station here. Just feel free to call the number that I think we showed up earlier, 757-1393. I think we had a live call on at one time. But it's it's a joy to be here and be able to present these items to you. But again, Veronica, VK Report comes on every Sunday at 4 o'clock?
Here in Manhattan, but it comes on in other boroughs as well.
Oh, that's right. You got to show me how to do that.
Did he say that?
How do I get to that?
But it's important. You have to get the information out. It is so important. It is so important. I thank you for letting me come on your show.
Oh, my pleasure.
Mr.
We're going to have to, we're going to roll out, just roll the VTR and we'll go out with the last 5 minutes because Veronica has to leave us.
From maybe at the UN.
UN? You have that UN tape?
That might be good. Well, if not, I'm sure he has a wealth of information for you.
We're gonna come back. We sort of put this one, piece this one together today,
yeah, but that's okay.
We didn't have all our roll-ends regulated like we should have.
Yeah.
But
the next time the minister comes into town, hopefully people will come out and see and hear, so they can judge for themselves, like you did.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. I think it's a
a
must.
Thank goodness you woke up.
Oh, I needed that.
But you were already. But a lot of times when you search, you find.
Because I was still on that Malcolm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
they're all connected.
A lot of us are still.
And he loves Malcolm. He loves Malcolm too.
Well, he made it clear that he does.
He did, yeah.
And hopefully we can get over that. Because that's what divided us, a lot of us, that loved and respected Malcolm.
Don't believe the hype.
And
search for yourself.
But you have to see the man, the individual for himself to really get to know what's going on. So it behooves all of us to pay attention to what goes on in our community, and especially pay attention to what happens here at Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Because I think this is the only place you get the truth. And especially watch Veronica's show. I mean, she's always coming up with new ideas, and she reaches the rapper community, not such as I do. I don't have that connection like you do.
I challenge them.
You know, because I see it as being disrespectful most of the time, because I watch what they put on television. I've got grandkids in the house, and I see the.
But the women got to take, but they got to take responsibility as well, because I wouldn't be in the video. Boop boop, you know.
You know that's.
So they got to take responsibility too. It's not just the rappers,
of course.
But it's not even them. If we look at the bigger picture, it's the mainstream media, and that's what sells.
It's sex. It's
and
sex
we buy into it.
You know, having come through a Pollyanna existence when I was that age, it was, you know, it was Doris Day in my day. I didn't see any booty shaking or nothing. You know,
no, you seen Pam Grier kicking down doors.
That was the 70s, I'm talking about 50s.
Oh, see, you know, he's dating himself, and, you know, I just can't even relate.
I got a son older than you.
But that's my brother.
I got a son older than you.